What's good, guys? And welcome to another episode of Mini Football Logic World Cup Edition. Today we're doing a double day episode. As you know, I took a little break, and now we're back, and we're going to be covering the 4 games that have happened, that have kicked off the round of 16 stage. Now, first game we're going to talk about is Netherlands versus USA. Now, looking at each team's group stage performances and expectations each of them had, it was clear to see that Netherlands underwhelmed, flattered to deceive, slightly achieved less than what was expected of them because of the playing style rather than the results, because the results are there, weren't they? 2 wins, 1 draw, I believe. You know, even though you could say that maybe they should be beating Ecuador, nonetheless, on the other hand, you had USA who, it was going to be a tough fight between them and people were picking Wales, but as you found out, Wales turned out to be kind of fraudulent. But they were going to have a bit of a fight on their hands to make it out of the group to follow England. And to be fair to them, they looked like the second best team in the group, and in fact gave England a really tough game. Really tough game. So you can tell that one team came through with confidence in USA, how well they've been playing, and one team came with confidence because of the results they've been getting despite their level performances. Well, Netherlands finally turned up on Saturday. I'll tell you that much. What a tactical masterclass from Louis van Gaal. It's quite clear to see that the Netherlands knew and Van Gaal knew that, well, USA like to be energetic and like to transition the ball fast and all of that kind of stuff. So, of course, they want the opponents to have the ball and then for them to attack on the counter. They're better. They create the chances through transitions, essentially. And what the Netherlands did is kind of like let them have the ball. That's pretty much what it was, like kind of like man-to-man mark and let them have the ball, essentially. And the US just kept passing them around the centre-backs. Of course, Depay scored after 10 minutes, and by the end of the second half, they scored a kind of a carbon copy with Daley Blind this time taking the role of finisher to the same guy, Denzel Dumfries, who crossed it in for both those 2 goals. In between that goal and the second goal, it was just a tactical masterclass. USA just couldn't create many clear openings, even though they did have a chance with Pulisic, and they did have a chance with Weah, even though that was kind of a long-range effort. And, it was clear to see that the Netherlands really had USA under control, really. They weren't making anything clear cut, and they weren't able to have a proper grip of the game and play the game how they like to. But then in the second half, of course, USA had to push harder. Haji Wright came on, he made a difference. In fact, he scored a goal. And overall, USA did improve in the second half, but Netherlands continued their tactics, and as soon as the USA scored, the Netherlands scored just a few minutes later with Denzel Dumfries completing his clinical performance. 2 goals and an assist. 1 goal and 2 assists, sorry. Very clean performance from him stat-wise, and he was able to be the difference for his team. That 3rd goal kind of put the game to bed, and the game just ebbed to finish. Really and truly. Now, let's talk about Argentina versus Australia, the second game on Saturday. Many people predicted Argentina to probably have full control of this game, and that's what transpired. Australia came there to be solid, compact defensively, and to be patient with the opportunities made potentially on the counter and during transitions. In the first half, they seemed to be showing strong defensive solidity that they've been showing throughout the tournament, apart from the game against France, of course, where Mbappe put on a clinic. And Messi's Messi. So, of course, he conjured up a bit of magic to get his first ever World Cup knockout stage goal in his 1,000th career game. I think it's like 788th goal in his 1,000 games as well. It's just ridiculous. The man is an absolute giant of the game. And, it's going to be interesting to see just how far Argentina can go. Because in the second half, Matthew Ryan made a mistake and Alvarez capitalized on it, putting the ball in the corner of the net to make it 2-0. And, this game was good as done at this point. Right? Well, that's what should have happened. But instead, Graham's shot got deflected by Enzo Fernandez, and it certainly was 2-1, and only 1 goal was separating Australia from getting into extra time. And they had opportunities, all right. Behic, in particular, running through the heart of the defence somehow, and then getting denied by a last-ditch block by Otamendi, I believe, or Lisandro Martinez. I think it was Lisandro Martinez. And then Galen Cole, the Newcastle United signing, had a chance in the dying embers, but Martinez made an unbelievable stop with his arm. And you saw the relief and happiness of the players when they saw their keeper pull out that save. Boy, it was top class. One worthy winning the game, but it looked like Messi had finally, in a way, arrived at a major knockout game. Sure, you could say it was against Australia, but it's still a knockout game nonetheless, with the pressure still on. And he put on an absolute show out there. It was a very good performance from Lionel Messi. Of course, Lautaro Martinez stopped the guy from having 2 more assists. The first chance was much worse than the second miss. Second miss is a good save, off a deflection. But the first, oh my God, he blazed that way over. He's really out-touching our form. People are calling him Higuain, the new Higuain now, but I think we need to calm down on that, because usually when Higuain misses in big games, Argentina take an L, either being extra time, in normal time, in penalties. It just happens. It's just in the DNA in those kind of moments. But in this case, they managed to pull through. Despite Lautaro missing those chances, he definitely needs to get his shooting boots back on, because we all know how lethal Martinez can be. But right now, Alvarez has to hold the fort up front, and he's done well, 2 in his last 2. So overall, that is that. Now we're going to move on from Saturday's action onto Sunday's action. France 3, Poland 1. The Mbappe show continues. The little boy, the guy's the same age as me. His birthday's even after mine as well. We're born in the same year. Nonetheless, Mbappe's put an absolute masterclass on. That kid is special. Of course, we're all getting carried away, saying he's the best player in the world. He's this and he's that. And it's like, yes, his legacy at the World Cup is already impressive. 8 goals already in the World Cup. No one's ever scored that many at that age since Pele. That's gone close to those sort of numbers. And it's a beautiful thing to see on the same day that, Giroud broke the record for being the all-time goal scorer for France. We're now seeing a man that's going to probably overtake him very soon. He's already got 31, 32 goals for France. It's not fair. All of this kind of stuff, his raw pace, his skill, his ability to finish, because those 2 goals were beautiful, conjured something up of not nothing, but half nothing. You know what I mean? The guy is spectacular. Now, of course, Poland, we know what we're going to get from them. They're going to try and be defensive, a bit organised, and try and take the opportunities on the counter, and when they have the chance to transition the ball from defending. They obviously, France were a bit shaky at the beginning, and Poland almost took advantage of some half opportunities, and Lewandowski was a lot more involved than he has been in recent games, the Argentina match, and literally, and the Saudi Arabia match, even though he did score. But, obviously, you can tell that France were going to be the team in control throughout the match, and they were going to do their thing. So when Giroud, scored the history-making goal from an Mbappe through ball, reverse pass, it set France on their way for Mbappe to add the 2 magical strikes, and then, Poland got their consolation through a controversial penalty, was retaken because he completely stopped, even though I swear you can't stop before you take a penalty, but I guess they saw it as a feint. So he really is pushing the boundaries with that one. I can't lie, Lewandowski, but yeah, he seemed very happy to get his goal, even though, it didn't really change the result, his country out. But at least he got to taste World Cup knockout football, so at least he can be positive for that. But overall, their performance in Mbappe will continue to please the French fans, and it's pleasing the rest of the world as well, because right now it looks like we're seeing a dawning of a new man that's going to take charge of world football at club level and international level, even though he needs to try his club stuff first, because let's be honest, it is a bit of a mess, it is a bit of a mess. But yeah, awesome performance from France. And Dembele, shout out to Dembele as well, man. Just thought, why not talk about Dembele, who set Mbappe up for one of his goals. England might have a lot of work to do, because that's who they'll be facing. England beat Senegal 3-0 in a game that surprised many, because we all know how England like to make it tougher than it needs to be. And this game just felt like it was set for that sort of scenario to happen. They will go to penalties and England will suffer and toil, but they didn't. Watching the game in the first 30 minutes, it did look like it could be heading towards that direction, but it never actually ended up that way. Senegal did have 2 big chances to score, Ismail Sarr and Boulaye Dia, but they didn't score. In fact, England scored from a transition, counter-attack. Henderson, of all people, slotting the ball in from a Bellingham cup cross. I was going to say cutback cross. And then they made it 2-0. And then Harry Kane, another kind of like transition such counter-attack. Foden set him up with a first-time pass. And then Kane finally, was in the advanced position inside the box to score. I felt like that was the first time he's been through and goal the whole tournament, to be honest. He might have been earlier, but that's the first time I can recall. And then Foden, a bit of trickery, a bit of brilliance to set up Saka, who did a beautifully dinked finish for the third goal. An absolutely awesome performance, and one that maybe people weren't expecting. Senegal, of course, are missing key men. Obviously, the person in the comes to mind is Manu, who hasn't been able to play this whole tournament at all. And then the suspension of Idrissa Gana Gueye, and I think Kouyaté, who I think is injured or not fit. But yeah, so obviously missing three of the most experienced players and important outfield players did cost them when you summarize everything. But I felt like with England playing with Eddie, I don't know how much difference they could have made. Who knows? There's no point in speculating because they weren't there and Senegal had to play without them, and they just couldn't compete with England, even though they looked really good in the first half of an hour. They were pushing high, making England, sweat a bit, especially Maguire, who was misplacing a lot of passes and all of that kind of stuff. I felt like Henderson's role in this match was quite interesting, how often he was in the wide positions. I was thinking maybe Trent could perform that sort of role maybe in that midfield, but maybe that's me being a bit too optimistic. Henderson is a more trusted, reliable character, I guess. As Bellingham said, he's very underrated technically, all that kind of jazz. But yes, we have a second set of quarterfinals. So obviously we had Netherlands, Argentina from yesterday, and now today we have, from Saturday, and now thanks to Sunday's games, we now have France versus England. But yes, that is all for today's episode. Obviously we had 2 sets of games in one. I don't know how often this is going to happen. I might do it 2 for 2 day by day, or 4 for 4 every other day. We'll see how it goes. But hopefully you guys enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next episode.
Mini Laje.